So, Full Mount MMA ran a story yesterday on Ian Garry and his wife having a conversation. I guess there's a documentary been shot and they were talking about the blowback from content creators calling him out for being essentially a cock. I guess MMA Guru has taken the full blunt of this blowback. Full Mount MMA have him on the front of their thumbnail. Ian Garry references some online overweight bearded guy and everyone automatically jumped to MMA Guru. He shot a video last night dismantling the whole thing. Give me a shout out, fair play to him, appreciate that. I'm going to have a little look at this video. I'm going to show you one or two other videos that have come out just in the last few days of Ian Garry talking about ongoing escapade with Leon Edwards and how all of a sudden his tune has started to change. If you go back and watch my last couple of videos on Ian Garry and the relationship, I did discover the WAG video. I did discover the fact that he was kicked out of his first gym. I did cover Veronica Hardy talking about how he did get kicked out of the Leon Edwards gym. So I have scratched the surface on this story, but it's great to see someone like Guru with a bigger audience push it out there. So what's the reasoning behind calling all this stuff out? I guess it's the fact that these guys are professional fighters. They're obviously delusional and narcissistic and kind of elevating themselves above everybody else. Not only the fighters that are in their division and in the organization, but I guess the people that talk online. I think it's quite pathetic the fact that I'm blocked on Instagram because this video was obviously from Instagram. I went to click on there, boom, I'm blocked. I think I follow 3 people on Instagram. I don't go on there. I would never ever go on someone like Ian Garry or his wife's page and leave a negative comment. So yeah, let's have a little look at this video because I think if you do scratch the surface, even on this little clip, there's a lot to be unearthed.
No, you can't. Because then it fucking drains me of energy because shit's not fucking true. No.
So we jump right in here and it opens with Ian Garry saying, no, you can't because it drains me. This shit drains me. We didn't get the context of the beginning of the story. She obviously sat down with him in front of a camera, of course, because there's 50 cameras following them around at all times. So she sits down and she must have asked him, hey, can we have a conversation about the blowback that you've been receiving online with all these people saying this, that, and the other about you? I've made the most videos, I think, out of the MMA content creators in terms of Ian Garry. And especially last week, I made 2 videos. I think they have over 50,000 views on both of them. You know, I was kind of leading the charge there last week on finding this information and just putting it out there. Not being a hater, of course. Just voicing my opinion of a celebrity, of an elite fighter, of someone that has 500,000 subscribers on Instagram. Are they bought or are they 500,000 people that actually like this dude? I don't know, because if you look across social media, you look across every single video that has an Ian Garry face on the thumbnail, majoritively negative comments coming this guy's way. So 500,000? Interesting. So she legitimately wanted to sit down in front of a camera and talk about people like myself, Guru, making videos about this guy and what way it would affect them. Interesting.
No, don't bring it up to me. I don't want to know about it.
I'm gonna cry with Curtis then.
You cry with him. Go cry in your ex-husband's arms.
She looks up. We know that her ex-husband lives with them. Not gonna go over old ground. Go and cry in his arms, he's told. And to be fair, I think there's a 50-50 split here in terms of Ian Garry being almost stoic, but then the glass is pretty much filled with cuckery then after that. But he's almost there. I think with cameras off and the bird coming up like hounding him about like guys talking shit on YouTube, he might actually run her. He might actually tell her to get fucked. You'd never know.
My new boyfriend.
My new boyfriend. Literally, like, I'm sorry, but no, like, I love you and I will be there for you for so much in life.
But you have no time.
But I have 0 time for this shit. Because if it's true, I will sit down and go, right, we need to talk about it. If you were a controlling, manipulative bitch, if you had control of my funds, if you were so controlling that I didn't have a choice, if you were a wag, if you had any of these things, if any of them were remotely fucking true, I'd sit down and give you time and conversation.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. If any of them were remotely true, I don't think I've ever called this person a bitch. That's not my style. I pointed out the fact that in interviews, he has been interrupted by this lady who is his manager and I guess he's Guru. And he has felt nervous on their conversations with podcasters and stuff like that because she does sit off camera and does tell him what to do. This is not speculation. There is interviews that I unearthed 2 or 3 videos back on Ian Garry where he was talking, and this is the same one that they pulled up on the Full Mount MMA. I found that video. I was scanning back, just having a little look around, and there was people sending me a few bits and pieces as well. I found that interview, and in that interview, he goes to answer a question. The wife interrupts, and it does look quite embarrassing, and it does look like she is telling him what to do. There's number one. In terms of the WAG thing, somebody sent me that last week. I posted it up. She wrote the book on how to be a WAG. So if you go back and we just hear him outline all these bits that I guess she's complaining about that people are calling out online.
If you were so controlling that if you had control of my funds, if you were so controlling that I didn't have a choice, if you were a WAG, if you had any of these things, if any of them were remotely fucking true, I'd sit down and give you time and conversation. If anybody gave you spoke about any point that is remotely fucking true, and they have any understanding of it where they've met us and actually spoke to us and talked about it, then you have a legit reason to sit down and talk to me.
Almost every single facet of what he mentioned there being true or not true, every single one of them are provable online and just by behavior. Okay, so he's written off right there. But he said if they were true, if they were remotely true, we'd sit down and have a conversation. And especially if someone that knew us voiced their opinion in the same manner. I don't know what world Ian Garry lives in. I'm not sure that your friends, your colleagues, possibly your family, but I don't think general acquaintances are going to come up, put their hand on your shoulder and say, listen man, I think your missus is running the show here. I think she's wearing the pants. Nobody is going to come up and say that to you. As I said, maybe a brother, if you're extremely close, you have a few drinks and he says to you, man, the missus there, like she's doing a lot of talking for you. She seems to be controlling everything. Maybe. But just like general friends, we know that he talked about in other videos that Gilbert Burns and his wife hung out for like 5 minutes until they realized how screechy you were. And then he sent his wife over to your house and said, okay, we're not allowed to hang out anymore. But do you think that these acquaintances that you meet in these fleeting moments as you're jumping and getting kicked from gym to gym, do you think that these acquaintances are going to come up and voice their opinion and say that you're controlling? It's not the way the world works. But in terms of the way these two lads are working out this conversation, I'm not sure they know how the world works. Especially not Ian Garry. I'm not being too pejorative or too negative towards Ian Garry, but he does talk in a delusional way a lot of the time. And I'm going to show it in a few minutes where he jumped from one opinion to another opinion to suit the narrative. And he refuses to hold up his hand in any way, shape or form, saying that, okay, I might have been wrong to do this, or I might have been wrong to do that. These are all textbook signs of narcissism and everything like that. But this has all been covered. I've covered it all already. So let's continue here.
But if it's some fat wanker with a beard talking about fucking something online that Veronica that could have said online and he wants to make a podcast about it, let the cunt be. Let it be.
Interesting. He calls out some fat wanker. Everyone jumped to MMA Guru. I don't think the dude's a fat wanker. I don't think anything like that. I can't understand why we always go to the ad hominem attack, because how about you listen to what he called you out on and what he criticized you on and then refute that? Not just go attacking someone. It's stupid and it's embarrassing. And that's what this whole thing is, embarrassing and childish. I'm blocked on Instagram. I can't see the future's posts. I was never going to jump into your post and be negative. I was never going to jump in there and try to turn people against you. You're doing a good enough job of that on your own. Look, it is what it is. Let them do it, he says. Let them do it. Coincidentally, I have had 2 videos demonetized in the last 24 hours. So in terms of holding your hands up and saying let them do their thing if they want to make a podcast, I'm not pointing the finger. I'm just saying it's a coincidence. Because if he's happy for online content creators with beards to make videos, then you wouldn't be blocking people on Instagram. And possibly people wouldn't be getting demonetized either. And that in and of itself defeats the entire segment here. Because if Ian Garry didn't block me on Instagram, and let's say speculatively that someone reported us en masse to get us demonetized, if it wasn't you, bro, who was it then? Was it someone who went out of their way to sit down and have a conversation in front of 50 cameras with you about this given subject? Might it have been her? And might that not totally defeat the conversation of she doesn't control me, she doesn't operate my social medias or look after my funds? It's all very sus. None of it makes sense, and I can't understand they opened themselves up to even more ridicule here. This is crazy. I'm going to jump over here and I'll show you a little bit of the hypocrisy from Ian Garry. He's talking about Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, and this is what he has to say.
Colby gets a lot of hype for nothing. The biggest thing Colby Covington has done is lose to Kamaru Usman twice. Twice. Leon has gone out and beat Kamaru Usman twice. I think Leon is going to absolutely surgically and I think he's going to dominate him.
When things between Ian Garry and Leon Edwards were all cozy and they were friends or acquaintances, Leon was going to go out and surgically dominate Colby Covington. No doubts about it, surgically dominate him. Flash forward to 3 weeks later, this whole bust up between Leon and Ian Garry comes to light. Ian is exposed for being this guy who doesn't want to be a team player, kind of awkward and annoying on the mats, extremely narcissistic in terms of bringing a bunch of photographers into the gym with him, and he gets booted. He gets kicked out of Leon Edwards' gym. And in the aftermath of that, we have him answering a question about Colby versus Leon again. Does he stick to his guns? Does he hold solid on that surgical dismantling that he said would happen?
But I think the matchup against Colby is an awkward one for him because Colby's going to get in his head. So we need to see how he deals with that. If he can deal with Colby's barrage of just cerebral attacks.
And as we can see, to suit his own delusional narrative, the story starts to change. And all of a sudden, Leon Edwards isn't as strong-minded and he's not as surgical and it's going to be awkward for him. That's extremely interesting, you know. So he's in full-on copium recovery mode here because you've got content creators scratching the surface and seeing your past disgusting behavior being excommunicated from 3 or 4 different gyms. People now are starting to see the relationship between your wife and yourself, and you keep putting it in front of cameras, so you can't blame people for talking about it. And now the narrative keeps on shifting with this Leon Edwards thing, because I have another little video pulled up here. Let's have a listen.
No, I was not thrown out of Leon Edwards' gym. I was politely asked not to return because we are potentially on a collision path, and
we were on a collision path, he says. So you were sure that Leon was going to be champion a month ago. This week you're not so sure because it's going to be a really awkward fight and Colby's going to get in his head. So you're not really going to be on a collision path, or you are, or this is also all part of a delusional narrative. Which one is it? If you ask me, I think that so many people are writing off Colby Covington. I saw somebody say that Colby Covington is going to get so badly exposed that he will never fight again, and it will actually elevate Leon Edwards to this all-time great because he's going to go in there and ragdoll and murk Colby Covington. I don't want to be a guy who says, with statements like that, you have no idea, you're a casual. I'm not that guy. If you think that Leon Edwards is going to murk, humiliate and expose Colby Covington, I'm not sure where you are in terms of the game. That is what it is. And that's just my opinion.
Leon's head coach told me that he didn't want me in the mats because I was a threat, because he doesn't want his fighter having any doubts or insecurities. And I believe him, and I know that's true, because he won't let me train with my favourite striking coach in Birmingham, who has nothing to do with Renegade, has his own separate gym, but trains Leon, so they won't let me work with him as well, because of the same point: doubts, insecurities and threat.
So there's not much more to say in terms of this story. We have Ian Garry, who's clearly in a downward spiral at the moment, spinning so many different narratives that he's starting to confuse himself. He has his wife calling company meetings in front of 50 cameras, asking and trying to figure out why people are talking negatively about them. So you can't have it both ways. You can't want all the attention in the world. You can't go out there and talk all this dribble and not have any recourse. It's as simple as that. And with all that being said, I think Ian Garry and his wife have done themselves a disservice in terms of his career and the trajectory of it. I think this guy is a good fighter. I think he had the potential to be a household name. Unfortunately, it'll be for a really negative reason if that does come to fruition, because right now not that many people know who he is. I heard him talking about he walks around the streets and people are like nervous and shaking in their boots to come up and talk to him. No, they're not, man. No, they're not. That's a lie. I think that the consensus across the MMA community is they want to see Vicente Luque put you out cold. They want to see him take the chin clean off your face. So we'll see what happens going on from there. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, share, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I appreciate you. Cheers.